around 2 years ago, I was staring into the eyes of another man who was twice my size, and he wanted to knock me out. See, he was way more skilled than me, and he walked up to me, and then... See, I had just recently joined an MMA club, which is like a mixed martial arts club, and this was the first time I was actually getting any real fight experience. Now, you may be wondering why you clicked on a GCSE maths video and this random handsome brown guy is waffling on about how he got knocked out by a guy in an MMA club. But I'm telling you that this story has more relevance than you think it does. If you don't know who I am, my name is Shamir, and I achieved 230 out of 240 in my maths GCSE. So like, maths GCSEs have 3 papers of each 80 marks, and I got 230 in total. So I only lost 10 marks in total. And in my mocks, in my like year 11 mocks, I got 238 out of 240. So I am pretty good at maths, in my opinion. If you still have any doubts or think I'm not qualified enough, I'm gonna wear this. Now, I'm qualified. For the last 2.5 weeks, I've poured my heart and soul into the making of this video. I genuinely want you as the viewer to get a grade 9 in GCSE maths. And I think if you follow this video in order, you will get the grade 9. I've also read like psychology books, such as The Magic of Thinking Big and Psycho-Cybernetics, for like the correct mindset in order to achieve a grade 9 in GCSE maths. I've talked to like a bunch of my friends who also got grade 9s. Again, my own experience, I didn't always get grade 9s. And also, I have literally like poured hours of research into researching why and how the best problem solvers do what they do. And I made the best like problem solving technique. Again, all I want back from you is just to watch this video in order. I genuinely think, if you follow this video in order, regardless of your maths ability, you will get the grade 9. And I'm so confident in that you can come back, you can literally save this video and come back to it and dislike it if you don't get a grade 9 in your actual thing, if you follow this entire thing through. I'm going to be splitting this video into sections for you to understand and learn. And honestly, I want you to watch this in order. For the past couple of days, I've been racking my brains into figuring out what the best order is to place the order of this video. And I think that this is the best way to do so. Now, I normally like to skip around YouTube videos or like multitask, like do my homework whilst procrastinating whilst watching another video. But genuinely, if you want this video to help you, you need to watch this the entire way through and hopefully make some notes on it, because I don't think that this is like a normal YouTube video. I think that this genuinely will help you in your future by giving you the grade 9. Before this video starts in its full progression in like all of the tips, I want to take time to compliment you. Now, you may think you're not good at maths right now, but think about it. You are investing time right now into learning how to get a grade 9. You're watching this entire long ass video on how to get a grade 9 for your future. That in itself is progress. If you think about the other random people in your class, think about what they're doing right now. One of them's probably like doing some random stuff. One of them's like playing video games. One of them's up at like 4 a.m. right now. You are literally investing an hour or so of your time just to focus on your future. And I want to compliment you on that. That's the first step of progress. Identifying that you're not as good as you think you are in maths is genuinely a good thing. And I hope this video will help it pay off. And I'm sure it will. And you're not like one of those random people in your class that don't really care about their future. This then brings me on to the next section of the video, which is superiority complex. When I was writing my GCSEs, I did something subconsciously that actually helped me way more than I thought it did. That actually got me the grade 9. Without this thing, I wouldn't have got anywhere near as much as I did in my actual GCSEs. See, there was this like cringe mindset that people in my class would adopt, where like whenever they saw a hard question in maths, they would always say to themselves, oh yeah, I just can't understand it because I'm not a mathsy person. And I always used to like look at them in sort of disgust. Like, if you know the psychology behind not backing yourself, you would know that this in the long run is harmful. I'll help you explain it in terms of fighting. That's why I included the entire story at the beginning. If you think of a fighter, if you think of like a UFC or a boxing fighter, there's one thing that they all do that you may not notice, but they all do it. And it works, it definitely works in the fight. They all back themselves. Every single one of the fighters you see, like boxing fighters or like MMA fighters or UFC fighters, they do one thing, and that is they all have this like massive ego. They all think that they're much better than their opponents, and then they can do it. Of course, you can definitely go way too far with this mindset, but this 100% works. I've seen so many people not backing themselves and like thinking that maths is way too hard for them to get a grade 9 in GCSE, so they may as well just like watch TV instead of actually revising. But if you simply back yourself and look at the paper, look at GCSE maths as a subject that's sort of easy, you will 100% be way more likely to achieve the grade 9 than someone else who thinks that maths is really, really hard. If you want to know more about this, there's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. This is an entire book written by this guy named Max Wellmont, who's like a psychologist. And he's seen that people in golf, like you see golf, who actually think they're going to make the hole or like make the putt, make it way more frequently than people who just don't think they can make it. In the same way that if you're throwing a basketball hoop, you have to think that you're going to get it in the hoop before you throw it. You have to completely believe, you have to brainwash yourself to think that you're going to get it in the hoop before you shoot the basketball. In the same way that fighters and basketball players adopt this like superiority, like egoistic mindset behind thinking that what they're doing is so easy it's beneath them, we need to adopt a little part of this. Because of course, I'm not saying be like an asshole. Of course, you have to like be humble, but in order to progress, you have to back yourself and actually think that you can get the grade 9. Now, what I used to do during my GCSEs is before like every single exam, I don't know if I did this subconsciously, but I would always look through the paper and literally, I wouldn't even read the questions. I would just say to myself, oh yeah, this is like beneath me. This is so easy, man. Like all of this paper is so easy. And guess what? This actually worked. So step 0 of this entire guide is you actually have to like brainwash yourself right now. If you're getting anything below like a 5 right now, you have to brainwash yourself to think that maths GCSE is easy, especially when you're like practicing for mocks or like a test. You have to brainwash yourself and actually believe that you can get the grade 9 with relative ease before you actually do it. If you want to learn more about this visualization, how strong visualizations and backing yourself in your brain is, look at the fighter called John Jones. John Jones now is like the greatest UFC, like MMA fighter in history. And he believed that the second that he thought he could like demolish his opponent in the ring, in the cage, that's when he actually did. If you want to learn more about this, read this book as well, The Magic of Thinking Big and Psycho-Cybernetics. And if you don't really like reading books, watch one guy named Hamza. I'll link his video on visualizations. His videos are also really, really good. He's somewhat controversial, but I really like him for my GCSEs. He got me the grade 9 in maths. So I hope you watch him as well. When I was doing my actual GCSEs, no one actually told me this. And no one actually told me this in my A-levels either. I had to like do some digging myself. But there's a specific way that problem solving works in your brain. You don't just like come up with the maths problems. Some people aren't just born with math skills. If someone says they're like a mathsy person, I remember some like girl came up to me like in year 11 and said, oh yeah, you're such a mathsy person. And I was like, what? No, do you think I go home and make love to my maths textbook? No, like all I do is revise and I get the grades. But anyway, the way problem solving works is as such. Again, I took all of this idea from this really good YouTuber. I'll link him down below. I think his name's like Colin something. He makes like really, really good like videos on how problem solving works. And he's like a programmer or like some genius programmer. But what he says is that the way problem solving works is in your brain, there's 3 main sections. There's one section called the generator. There's one section called the filter. And there's one section called the explorer. Now, the generator is the part of your brain that generates ideas. This can be done either consciously, like you think of ideas to come through and they just randomly come through, but mostly this is subconscious. Your brain will always be generating random ideas. That part of your brain will always, whatever topic it is, either in a maths exam or without a maths exam, they will always like be generating ideas. And then the next section is the filter. Now, the filter in your brain filters out the weird, like random ass ideas and like keeps the relevant ones. So if, for example, you're answering a question on ratios in maths, your brain may be like generating random thoughts, but your filter is the one that will actually take the relevant thoughts and then pass it on to the next section of the brain, which is the explorer. The explorer is the part of the brain that actually like does the digging and finds a solution. And what this guy Colin says, and like it's backed by scientific research, is you can't actually, it's really hard to improve your explorer and your generator in your brain over like a short period of time. So what this entire video is, especially on problem solving, is just improving the filter part in your brain. What you need to get good at is just keeping, like filtering out the irrelevant ideas and only keeping the relevant ones. And then your explorer, I don't think that there's like much different between someone who has like 200 IQ and 90 IQ between their explorer. It's just their filter. Their filter is the main difference between a dumb person and a smart person, because that's the one that like keeps relevant ideas and then discards irrelevant ideas. So during the course of this video, I'm going to tell you how to improve your filter, how to filter out like good ideas. And this is the way you should like be aiming to get a grade 9 in maths. For example, if I have a student, right, and then you're taught a new topic on like quadratic equations. When you're given like a quadratic equation to solve, there's a lot of ideas that may come to your brain. But after you've done like practice, your filter fine-tunes your thinking process to enable your explorer to solve equations. Again, I don't think I did like the best explanation of this, like how your brain works in problem solving. Again, if you want to learn more about this, go watch his channel. I'll link it down below. But this is like the general idea I had. So from now on, even in my A-levels, I take maths and other maths A-levels, by the way. All you need to do is improve the filter part of your brain to get good at maths or problem solving in general. So discard like the idea of you can't get the same ideas as someone else. Everyone like generates the same ideas. Like, pretty much generates the same ideas. To change like your generator and explorer, it takes like years and years of work, but we don't have that time. If you see someone like student A and student B, and student A is getting like a grade 9 in maths and student B is getting grade 5 in maths, it's probably just because their brain is fine-tuning and filtering out the bad ideas that both of them generate, but the student A who's getting grade 9 is fine-tuning it for the problem at hand. And this is what I'm going to be teaching you in this video. Again, if I relate this to fighter or UFC analogies, again, you may think I like UFC by the amount of times I reference it. I do. I like fighting in general. But this is the same thing as muscle memory in fighting. So for example, if someone like comes at you at a jab, your brain should automatically see that coming through its filter. Like it's filtering out the things it could do, and it's just giving the idea that you should pull up the guard. Sort of like muscle memory. That's what you should develop when you think of improving your filter, because your filter should just become like a second nature in your. It should just become subconscious when you're answering a question. For example, when you're like looking at like factorizing quadratics, your brain should like just generate thoughts and filter out thoughts automatically. That's the point we're aiming for in this video, and I'll hopefully be explaining it in more depth later on in this video. So that will bring me on to the next section, which is practicing content. Again, you may be like a bit confused about how weird this analogy is, like the filter explorer, but this is exactly how the brain works when it's problem solving. I can guarantee you that. I'll put in like some links to scientific research if I can be asked, but this is like a true model of how your brain works when it's problem solving. And it honestly like astonishes me that we never get taught this in like school. We just get taught like the actual subject. But if you get taught, now you should know like you're trying to improve your filter when it comes to learning maths. I had 3 days before my mocks in 2021 and I was really stressed out. See, it was maths. At the time, I didn't really know how like the subject of maths at GCSE worked. So I was really confused and scared. On top of that, I had like a mate in my class. I had a friend and he did this really weird thing that doesn't work, and hopefully you won't do it as well. And every time he was going to revise for a test, instead of actually practicing the content, he would try and come up with like the most efficient, most optimized way of revising. So one day he would be like, oh yeah, the Pomodoro technique when revising maths with Anki works really well. And then the second day he would come up and say, oh yeah, no, you should be doing this when you're revising maths. In the mocks, he got like a 5, he got like a 6, and no shade thrown to him. But this is exactly the opposite of what we need to do. When I put this into gym terminology, I was like, oh my God, practice is really the most important thing you can do. Because think about this in gym terminology. Like, if you go to the gym like me, you would say that like diet and like planning your workouts is pretty important. But you can't actually grow as a bodybuilder without actually lifting the weights. Okay, this is the same when you're fighting. You can like study textbooks. You imagine you're fighting like an MMA fighter or something. You won't just read textbooks and like figure out the most efficient way of like fighting, would you? You would go in and practice sparring. You would practice fighting. And it astonishes me how many students go about revising for maths the wrong way. I guarantee you that practice is like the weightlifting of bodybuilding. It's like the training or fighting or sparring of fighting. This is the most important thing that you can do. Without practice, you cannot get the 9. I see so many people like going over textbooks and just reading them when it comes to revising maths. But the only thing you should be doing, the highest leverage thing that you can do, is practice papers and practice topics. Now, one thing I've noticed is that this is hard. This is definitely the hardest way to revise maths. Doing hard practice questions is 100% what no one else will do. What no one else likes practicing questions. It's hard, it's tough, you don't understand most of it. But I guarantee you that this is why so many like people don't get the grade 9. The only way to get the grade 9 right now is to practice as much as possible. This means going through like past paper maths questions and going through them with volume. You should go through as many past paper questions as like humanly possible to get the grade 9. You need to work on fine-tuning your filter in your brain, and the only way you can do that is by doing as many practice questions as humanly possible. And these practice questions shouldn't just be like GCSE maths. I'm telling you right now, if you're getting grade 9s consistently in maths, I did this as well. Go up a level, do UKMT questions, do like Olympiad questions. You should keep on increasing the leverage or the constraint you're at the maths grade for you to improve. You should not only look at one like topic, you should increase the variety of the questions asked as well. I'm also gonna like put a list of resources where you can find hard maths questions, because for me personally, if you're like a grade 8 or 9 students, you may know that some of the GCSE like papers are repetitive and they're kind of easy. And if you want harder questions, go to a website called Isaac Physics, I think, and go on like UKMT questions, Olympiad questions. But if you're like grade 5 right now and you think I'm like boasting, saying that like GCSE math questions are easy, I'm telling you that the only reason you're not getting the grade 9 is because you're not practicing. You've watched videos like this. Let's be honest. You've watched like many YouTubers say, hey guys, sponsor my product. Look at my product. This is the best revision methods. But the one thing you haven't been doing is actually practicing the questions. This was exactly me in English language. I would watch hundreds and hundreds of videos on English and language, but I would actually not practice doing the papers. The only thing that's holding you back right now is either your identity and the lack of practice you have right now. If I want to give you like a quantifiable number to say how much you would need, how many papers you would need to get the grade 9 in maths, I would say around 9. If you can do 9 past papers, go over them, mark them, and then like mark them in full with timed as well, and then go over them and get full marks when you go over them with a mark scheme, you should be getting the grade 9. Again, I just want to repeat this again. This is very, very hard. Going through 9 practice papers is a lot of GCSE maths papers. But honestly, this is the way to success. Think about it. If everyone was doing this hard method of revision, of doing only practice questions during their revision, everyone would be getting grade 9s. But the reason people aren't getting grade 9s right now, or like 99%, like there's that 1% of people who can't like count to 5. Then fair enough. If you don't know like your numbers, or like you have some problem that doesn't enable you to like count, then fair enough. Then you probably shouldn't get a grade 9. But if you can count, if you can do like basic operations, the reason you're not getting a grade 9 right now is just because of practice. I can guarantee you that. I can assure you that it's just practice. It's not like the revision resource you have. It's not the teacher you have. It's just because you're not getting in enough practice of maths. The way I personally practiced questions was I would go online, go on the aqa.co.uk website. That was my exam board. And I would print out a full GCSE paper, and I would do it in timed conditions. Now, there is a very big caveat in that. And that is, if you're getting below a 5 or a 4 right now in GCSE maths, the worst thing you can do is put time constraints on yourself. See, the way your brain is working right now is that you're not fully adapted to the style of questions in GCSE maths. And adding the time element to it right now is just going to stress you out way more. You'll not be able to think in the exam. Again, if you looked at my problem solving like section of this video, your stress levels actually very largely determine your filter in your brain. So again, the way you can like increase your filter is by practicing, but also having a lack of stress. If you're just calm in the moment, you'll be way more likely to answer the questions correctly. And that's why if you're getting below a grade 5 or a grade 4 right now, the worst thing you can do right now is to put yourself under time constraints. Because I don't know, man, like I used to have the same thing with English. I know this is a GCSE maths video, but like this is the same thing with English. I used to do this really dumb thing where I would like put very, very harsh time constraints during my practice papers, and then I wouldn't be able to like finish the paper, and then I would like cry because I would be like, oh no, I'm gonna fail life, man. I can't answer this in this correct like time constraints, so I'm a failure. But I guarantee you that if you just do practice papers without time conditions, this is for people getting below a 5, and then build up to the time in the exam, your progress will be way more than someone who's just like practicing with very, very strict time constraints and then feeling upset about not doing the paper in the correct time constraints because they're stressed out. Let's be honest. If you're getting below a 5 right now, or like below a 4, and you're not passing maths, you will be very, very stressed whilst practicing. Again, this is another side tangent, but like, if I've personally felt this, if you're not getting good grades in the subject, it's hard, man. You feel like this emptiness inside of you. When you can't get a question, you just like, you start panicking. And that's the feeling you really don't want to like feel. And this is why I emphasize so highly on the identity part of this guide. And that is having the correct mindset to solving questions will really help you like calm your nerves. Because the worst thing you can do, especially in like a problem solving subject like maths, is stress out. Because that's just going to mess up your entire paper. Again, I have memories of me in like year 10 or year 9 when I wasn't that good at maths, of me like not getting the answer to one question. I would then switch to panic mode and I would be like, oh no, I'm gonna fail life. My parents are gonna be disappointed in me. I'm gonna get deported back to India. Again, the worst thing you can do is stress, and by adopting this mindset of thinking that the paper's easy beforehand and just going in it with like an open mind and like a very stress-free and relaxed mind without any time constraints, right now, you will progress in the subject of Maths GCSE. This takes me on to the next section of the guide, which is learning content. A lot of people do learning content very, very wrong in the subject of maths. See, maths isn't like other subjects. You don't have to open up a textbook and then flick through it chronologically. What you should actually do is adopt this mindset of first practicing and then focusing only on your mistakes. I know that this is like a very unorthodox thing to do. Like most people, like even in your class, you go through the topics chronologically before you start practice. But this isn't the way to do it. The best way to put this is in, again, a fighting perspective, which is if you're preparing to go fight, like in a boxing match or an MMA match, you wouldn't open up a textbook and start flicking through like the different ways of fighting. Instead, what you would do is you would first fight and then only focus on improving your mistakes. Again, if you follow and analyze fighting or weightlifting, they're both exactly the same as getting good in the subject. But this same ideology should be applied to maths, in that if you practice first and then learn the content, it's way more valuable than doing it the other way around. So what I used to do is I used to go through papers, and then the questions I used to get wrong, I would focus only on that topic. So again, if you wanna think about this, I would do like an entire paper in maths, and then the questions I used to do wrong, for example, like probability, I would go and focus and do like bare practice questions on that certain topic. If you want to think this in like a psychological aspect, this is just fine-tuning your filter a bit more. So your filter has exposure to all of these questions, and it's like trying to fine-tune what are the best ideas to pass through to your explorer. And then you repeating practice questions is just fine-tuning it a bit more. So by concentrating only on your mistakes rather than going through each topic chronologically, you're going to progress way more than the person who does the latter part of that revision technique, if you get what I mean. Again, this is a very, very difficult thing to do. Like, you will feel some kind of like existential crisis, or like some kind of nihilistic feeling inside of you when you get a question wrong. You like question your entire existence of life when you get a question wrong. You'll feel like really empty inside. But what you need to be comfortable with is that feeling. You need to feel comfortable with getting uncomfortable in the sense of maths, in that like you shouldn't always be able to answer a question from straight out. You should just trust in the process, and then if you get the question wrong, you just practice that certain question. A lot of people don't do this. Like, you're gonna see a lot of your friends do the latter part of this revision technique, but you're gonna beat them if you use this revision technique of practicing first and then learning content. Again, there is a massive caveat in this. If you are in like year 9 or year 8 and you don't know any GCSE content, and then you do an entire past paper, you're gonna freak out. But it's gonna cause more stress inside your brain than necessary. So in that perspective, if you don't know anything to do with GCSE maths, then I would recommend you like listening in class or looking through the textbooks. But I'm assuming that most people on here are either in year 10 or year 11. And the best way to do it right now is not how they do it in class. It's to practice a lot of questions, and the ones you get wrong is the ones you should be concentrating on. Again, if this helps, this is like if you're fighting, right, and then someone throws an overhand left, or someone throws like a right punch. Not concentrating on your mistakes is like just letting them punch again and again and not working on your defense. I used to do this personally. I would get a question wrong and I would like hide it from my teacher and like pretend that I got it right. But this is like not the way you should go about it. You should first look at your mistakes and then use that as like valuable information on where you have to concentrate your revision on. The best revision resource you should use is everything. It actually like annoys me how many people like fight over the best revision resource. Like, some people say CGP is the best one, some people use like Edexcel or something. And I'm like, this is the worst way to do it. Like, you should get revision resources from every single aspect. You shouldn't just stick with one like textbook or something. If you don't understand something in your textbook, go online, go understand it online. If you don't understand something online, go ask your teacher. If you don't understand something from your teacher, go ask ask your friend or something. You shouldn't have one determined revision resource in order to get good in the subject. If you think about it, it's not about the revision resource you use. Like if this like particular revision, if like CGP is the best one, everyone who did CGP books or like everyone who used the revision textbook should get like a grade 9, right? But that doesn't happen. That tells us that it's not about the revision resource you use or the YouTuber you watch. It's just about you and how much you practice. So again, after that little rant, don't concentrate on the specific revision resources. Just look at the specification, which is like, again, I forgot to mention, the specification is like a document on what you're supposed to know for the GCSE. Just look at that. And if you don't understand the specific part in that specification, go use any revision resource you want. This section is all about improving on your personal mistakes. I touched upon this in the previous section, but I just want to expand on it in this section. Intentional improvement is one of the most important things you can do. It's like the progressive overload of maths. If you think about it, if I go into the gym and I pick up like the 5 kg, the 5 kg is pretty like dumbbells, and I start like curling the 5 kg dumbbells, that doesn't really mean much. But if I stay at 5 kg for the next 5 years, that tells me something. That tells you something as well. That tells you that you're not picking up the harder weights, are you? What you should be doing is in the gym, you should be like picking up the higher weights so you can get the most muscle. And this is exactly the same in GCSE maths. If you don't focus on your mistakes, you're effectively like killing your maths gains and you're not improving at all. And the best way to intentionally improve or like focus on your mistakes and improve through that is something I found from another YouTuber called Ray Amjad. I think he goes to like Cambridge or something and he's like really smart. But I found something in one of his videos that's really like helping me right now at A-levels. I personally didn't use this at GCSEs, but I really recommend you to do if you can right now. And this is by using something called a mistake document. Now, what a mistake document is, it's like one sheet of paper with like different sections on it. And each section has all of the mistakes you made in maths for that particular topic. I'll give you another example. If you look at the problem of factorizing quadratics or like expanding brackets, if I expanded the brackets wrong, I would go to my mistake document in the section of quadratics and I would explain why I got the question wrong and how I would do better next time. For example, if I expanded wrong, I would say in the mistake document that I should have used the claw method, or I should have expanded every single term rather than timesing two together. Now, what you should do with this mistake document is just, before you practice any sort of test, you should just read through it. I think I'll put an example of like one of my mistake documents. I'm using it way more at A-level now. It's really, really useful. And what this gives you is it's like a cheat sheet for your own like memory. What you can do is, before every mock, you just read over the stuff you got wrong and how you could benefit from it in the future, or how you can like better yourself in the future. And this is like a cheat code for success, basically, because it has like a cheat sheet of not the information in maths. It's a cheat sheet of the stuff you got wrong and how you could do better. So just to reiterate, this mistake document will be used every time you do like a full GCSE paper. I wouldn't recommend like adding stuff to the mistake document when you do like random practice in class or something, because I think that your mistake document can get way too cluttered. But if you look at like your GCSE, if you do like a full GCSE maths paper in full, and then you get a question wrong on like ratios, you should explain what you got wrong in that ratios question and how you could do better next time. If you want like my personal template for GCSE maths, I've uploaded it on a website called GitHub. GitHub's like this really cool website where like I can share stuff with you if you like press follow. It's completely free, and then you can like upload suggestions. So if you think that like some part of my mistake document isn't like that good, then you can just like upload or make changes to that, and then I can approve that if I think your change is valid. And If you've watched my past GCSE English video, I've uploaded all of my resources there right now, and I'm gonna make way more resources on GCSEs that I'm gonna be uploading to my GitHub. So if you don't know how to use GitHub, I'll link a video. You just have to go there, press follow, and you should just get a template of a mistake document in maths that should help you. I also have other documents. I have a full 27-page guide on how to study for exams, the science-based tips off this guy named Ali Abdal, who's a Cambridge graduate and stuff. So that should interest you as well. If you're watching a video like this, that should interest you. Just go follow me on GitHub, and then you should get the mistake document. That's the end of the structured approach to this video. Now you should have pretty much everything you need to know to get a grade 9 at GCSE. And honestly, even at A-level maths or further maths, if I don't get good grades, it's because I haven't done a specific part of this video. So for example, I think I did quite bad in the most recent test. And I think it's because I just haven't done enough practice. Again, this will apply to any sort of maths or problem solving thing you do in the future. If you've gotten bad, it's just because you haven't done a specific section in this video. So hopefully now you understand exactly how to get a grade 9 at GCSE, and hopefully now you can improve in your GCSE. The next section of this video is just about my personal thoughts, and it's a lot more rambly about the subject of maths. If you want to watch, you can. In this section, I'm specifically talking to the younger version of me. So the mistakes I did in maths GCSE and how I could have done better personally. I'm going to put that in the next section, but hopefully now you should have everything you need to know to get a grade 9 at GCSE. Welcome to the unfiltered section of this video. It's just you and me right now, and I think 98% of the people watching this video have clicked off, and I just want to tell you some uncensored tips on how I found GCSE and the tips I could give you. Number one is learn to enjoy the subject. Honestly, if you think about people in your class, the people who are really, really good at maths, they don't use some fancy revision technique or some fancy revision app. What do they all have in common? Really think about this. In every subject, there's this one person who's insanely cracked at it in your class, right? But they don't use some fancy revision technique, or they don't use a Pomodoro technique. They all have this one common denominator. A maths joke. One common denominator. And that is that they all enjoy the subject. They all have this liking towards the subject. And this is something you should keep in mind when you're studying maths. You cannot get good at it. You cannot practice it if you don't enjoy it. You will find so much friction in your brain if you just don't enjoy the subject. Again, you have, I know that some random people online are going to be oh yeah, but I'm not a mathsy person, I hate maths. But this is just decreasing your chances of getting a grade 9. In order to completely maximize your chances of getting a grade 9 in maths, you just have to enjoy the subject. You should have this childlike mindset in your brain where every time you come across the question, you shouldn't be questioning your life choices or thinking that you're going to get deported back to your home country. You should just look at it as a challenge. Remember when we were kids, we were given those quizzes in primary school where everyone used to do them, and you may have gotten sweeties afterwards. You should just look at them in that sort of retrospect. And I've found that so much more useful than looking at this as an exam. You should just look at it as a source of fun instead. You should just be oh yeah, maths is kind of fun. I would do it even if I didn't have an exam. I know that sounds insanely neaky right now, but I guarantee you that you will find revision way more easier if you just learn to enjoy the subject. It is learn to enjoy the subject. It's not something genetic you have inside your brain. You just have to learn to enjoy it. The next point is diet. Your diet actually has a massive, massive impact on how you perform in your maths exam. Again, if you don't practice and only focus on diet, then you're not going to get good. But if you really, really want to maximize every single section of this video and get 100% in maths, then this should be your idea of trying to maximize every single factor to get the grade 9. And your diet has a massive, massive impact. I've found personally, I've done some research, that the best diet you could have for problem solving and maths and productivity in general It's a low carb diet. If you eat like a ton of oats or something before your maths exam, it's actually decreasing your performance. And a scientist named Dr. Andrew Huberman, who I've mentioned a lot of times in this channel, has said like a lot about this. Your diet will literally drain your brain power if you don't eat the correct diet. So this goes against like all of the stereotypical advice, like GCSE advice online of like eating a big breakfast before exams. You shouldn't actually eat breakfast before your exams. If you do, you should eat something without that much carbs, like eggs or like what else, nuts, any kind of meats. You shouldn't eat like very high carb meals because you always feel lethargic. The best way to explain this is if you think of like a predator, like a lion or a shark, they only perform their best when they're hungry. And we're animals as well. So if you think about it, a lion who's like stuffed with like carbs and like meat and stuff will always be outperformed by the hungrier lion. And we should apply this in our lives as well. Before we go on the hunt, we should not be like very, very full, and we should like kind of be slightly hungry before exams. I know this is like going into way too much detail than you actually need to get the grade 9, but this is like something that interests me as a person, so I don't really mind like researching into diet. But for me, it's being a low carb diet before you actually do the math exam. The third tip is that you shouldn't expect this like journey to be anywhere near easy. This is very hard. If you're not gifted at maths, this is going to be very hard. You're going to fight some real demons when you practice maths. I've seen literally tears come out of people's eyes when they practice maths. But this will all be worth it. Trust me. The work you put in right now will 100% pay off on GCSE results day. Like, I know there's a lot of like these weird study YouTubers online that say that, oh yeah, grades aren't that important. Bro, the emotion I got when I got 230 out of 240 in my maths GCSE was unwavered. Like, it's unmatched, man. The amount of work I put into getting those grades had all paid off. And they will for you, hopefully, if you follow this guide. Again, your goal right now is to beat me, get higher grades than me. That should be your like standard. You should get more than 230 in your maths GCSE. And I can tell you for a fact that it all will pay off. The feeling you get after getting your GCSE results and you see them with like loads and loads of 9s, especially in maths, will be incredible. Trust me, it will all be worth it at the end. The next tip I want to give to you is ignore the noise. There is going to be a lot of noise when you're writing your GCSE. This is like a GCSE general tip, but there's going to be a lot of noise when you're writing your GCSEs. There's going to be a lot of random people talking so much crap that you're going to feel so much emotions. There's going to be like so many people online talking so much crap and just being an asshole. But I guarantee you that if you just ignore what everyone else is saying and just focus on your grind, it will always be worth it in the end. An example of this is when I was writing my GCSEs, I used to go on this like subreddit called r/GCSE. Don't go on it. If you don't know what Reddit is, good. Don't go on the subreddit r/GCSEs. They used to like post memes and stuff about GCSE, but the overwhelming majority of that website was just people gloating about how good they did in the maths exam. And honestly, this really, really like messed up my mental health during my GCSEs and maths exams. And I just, if I could tell my younger self one thing when he was doing his maths GCSE, don't listen to people online. Even if someone says online that they got this and this right, don't listen to them. Like, don't go on the website itself. You should value your happiness more than other people's external validations, basically. Because honestly, what other people say online isn't the mark scheme, and it's probably not going to be right anyways. If you get what I'm hinting at, you should just ignore what everyone says online, everyone says on social media, and just focus on your grind if you really want to improve in the subject of maths. The struggles you face at GCSE is probably what everyone else is facing right now. I have spent countless amount of nights, sleepless nights, of me like worrying over this specific part of maths or this specific topic in this specific subject. And don't think that you're alone. Like, the entire country right now, or right now if you're in year 11, not year 10 maybe, is worrying about like this topic in maths GCSE, or like this topic in that specific subject. And just to provide you with like reassurance, I wish someone said this to me when I was writing my GCSEs, is that you shouldn't like put people on pedestals. Like, grade 9 students aren't that good, honestly. Like, they're gonna go through the same trials and tribulations and problems that you go through, but I guarantee you, if you just put in the work and just follow this video, you'll beat them. You'll win, bro. You'll win at GCSE maths and any other subject. If you just work hard, your chances of you succeeding in that subject is way higher. So I think that's it for the rest of this video. Again, go to GitHub. It's GitHub, GITHUB, and go follow me on there for the maths mistake document. I really think that that's a really good revision technique for you. But if you just learn to like adopt the mindset that math GCSE isn't that hard, let's be honest. It's really easy. And then you like skim through the test at the beginning of the exam, and then you like look at it in a sense of like, oh yeah, these questions are too easy for me, without even reading the questions. And then you just practice content in class, and then at home you just do full practice papers, and then you adopt this mindset of intentionally improving your mistakes and like targeting your mistakes. You're guaranteed a grade 9. I know in your school there's like these things called predicted grades, which I don't really like. And it's like your teacher predicts you what you're going to get at the end of year 11 when you're in like year 10 or something. Don't listen to them. If you have a predicted grade below like a 5, assume you're going to get a 9 in the actual thing. Actually, whatever your predicted grade right now is, assume you're going to get a 9 in the actual thing. Don't listen too much to your predicted grade. Don't like put that self-constraint on yourself. Just grind out practice papers and adopt the mindset of like targeting mistakes very specifically, rather than just like doing everything and like reading through the textbooks. Just practice papers and target the mistakes, and you'll get the 9. I hope this video has really helped. I've put a lot of work into it. I've like researched so much into like the science behind problem solving and like the identity you should adopt. I've also gone and asked like some of my friends and stuff. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'll answer them. If you want to subscribe to my like newsletter, I send out a newsletter. It's in the link below, and also follow me on GitHub as well. I know I'm plugging my GitHub, but genuinely, like, if I was in year 11 right now, I would love to have like these kinds of videos where it's just me and you, like a grade 9 student, just talking to the camera without any like random ass sponsors, and just telling you what I found like difficult during my GCSE journey, and having like the resources that he has for free. So subscribe to my channel if you like this video, like it. Again, if you don't get the grade 9 in GCSE, genuine, I'm not joking when I say, if you don't put in the hard work, you will not get the grade 9. But if you do put in the hard work, like 100%, and follow every single section in this guide, and don't get the grade 9 in GCSE maths, come back and dislike this video. I hope you get the grade 9 in the subjects of GCSE maths. I'm going to start uploading way more consistently in the future. I'm going to release like long form guides like this one for every single subject for GCSEs. So stay tuned, subscribe, like the video, save the video, share the video, and I'll see you in the next one.